My parents tried to give my inheritance to their favorite daughter, but my grandparents had a surprising twist in store. Male 28-year-old comes from a family with a convoluted and long history of favoritism. My younger sister Amy, 25, has always been preferred by my parents, especially Dad, over me. Starting in our childhood, this partiality only got worse as we grew up. Amy was the golden child from my earliest memories. Our parents threw her an elaborate birthday party including professional face painters, a bouncy castle, and a petting zoo when I was 5 and she was 2. I had a store-bought cake and a little family supper for my birthday that same year. This helped to define the tone for years to come. The differences became clearer as we aged. Amy always received the newest toys, the greatest clothes and most attention. I recall saving months of allowance for a new bike when I was 10 years old. Amy wanted one too, hence she had a fit when she saw it. Rather of educating her about waiting or saving, my parents went right out and got her an even nicer bike than mine. Another arena where the bias was evident was school. Amy's parents attended all of her school functions, while they usually missed mine. I took front stage in the school play in 4th grade. I practiced for weeks, driven by great enthusiasm. My parents arrived an hour late on the night of the play, therefore missing my major scene. They were consoling Amy after she complained of stomachache. She was good later on, they had simply lost count of time playing with her. Regarding academics, nothing I ever appeared to do seemed sufficient. I joined the math club, often received straight A's in middle school, and even took first place in a regional science fair. Though my parents hardly noticed these successes, they gave Amy a celebratory dinner and purchased her a new phone as encouragement to keep getting better when she scored a B+ on one test in her weakest subject. In particular, high school was difficult. With an eye toward their approval, I put myself into whatever activity I could. Along with keeping a 4.0 GPA, I was editor of the school newspaper, debate team captain. Amy coasted through school, hardly keeping a C average, and spent much of her time hanging out with friends. I was chosen from our university as one of 2 junior year applicants to participate in a famous summer program at Harvard. It was such an honor, and I felt great. My dad grumbled and moved the topic to Amy's forthcoming dancing performance when I told the news over supper. At least my mother remarked, "That's nice," but she moved on fast. My parents couldn't bring me to the airport on the night Amy's concert fell on the same day I was leaving Harvard as they wanted to see Amy perform. I asked the parents of a friend for a ride. Another agonizing experience was the college application process. I worked months on improving my essays, engaged in extracurricular activities, and SAT preparation. Several elite colleges accepted me and I was given a sizable scholarship to my ideal college. When I told my parents about this at supper, their reaction was barely passable. "That's good, but don't let it run to your head. College isn't everything," my dad advised. "Just remember about us when you're off becoming a big shot," my mother said. On the other hand, my parents were quite understanding when Amy barely passed high school and chose not to attend college. They admired her for knowing herself and for defying social expectations. Something they never done for me, they even paid for her a car as a graduation gift. Emotionally, this persistent favoritism suffered me greatly. Over my teens and early 20s, I battled anxiety and despair. Beginning therapy in college, I came to realize that my parents' actions were not my fault. Years of effort were needed to develop my self-esteem and learn to validate myself rather than depending on my parents' approval. My immediate family did not help me, yet I still managed to lead a decent life. By the time I finished from college with honors, I had a decent job in finance and even purchased my own house by 27 years old. Though my parents aren't, I'm glad of what I've accomplished. Here then, is where the current drama begins. On Dad's side, my grandfather died not too long ago. He left a sizable estate and was a successful businessman who started from nothing. In his will, he split his possessions equally among his grandchildren, including me, Amy, and our cousins, as well as his children, Dad and his siblings. My portion of the bequest was significant, roughly $500,000. It would have let me invest in my future, pay off my education loans, and perhaps even launch my own company someday. This unanticipated windfall and the chances it could present made me happy. When the will was read though, my parents clearly became agitated. Later, they drew me aside and said they felt it was unjust I received an equal portion. Amy, who lives in our parents' basement and works part-time at a coffee shop, said she needed the money more since she was suffering. Though stunned, I attempted to keep cool. I clarified that Grandpa made this decision. They had no say on how he decided. They insisted I should act morally and give Amy my fair part. They became enraged when I turned down and began guilt-tripping me, calling me unappreciative and selfish. Every incident my dad could recall where they had helped me came under discussion. Though I worked part-time to help with finances, he emphasized paying for my medically necessary braces, buying me school supplies, the bare minimum, and allowing me reside at home during college. He conveniently forgot about the car they bought Amy, the many shopping sprees, and the fact they still support her at 2025. The matter got rapidly more serious. Acting as the will's executor, my dad chose to handle things himself. Along with her own inheritance, he declared he would be interpretation Grandpa's intentions and give Amy my whole part. He said Grandpa would have wished if he had known our unique situation. I was broken. This was not only obviously illegal but also a terrible reminder of how little my parents thought of me. Pointing that Grandpa had always treated all his grandchildren equally and that he was aware of our circumstances, I tried to reason with them. Then my mother accused me of speaking ill of the deceased by implying Grandpa would have preferred anything else than what my dad was advocating. I mentioned certain memories of Grandpa pushing my academic and career goals, but my parents brushed off these as misinterpretation. They said Grandpa wanted to make sure Amy was taken care of and had privately voiced worry about her future. They had no response when I asked why he hadn't simply penned the will that way then. Amy, for her part, was awkward about the circumstances but did not voice criticism of our parents. She merely shrugged and said, "Mom and Dad know best." When I tried to chat to her alone, she obviously wasn't going to be much help. Feeling misled and wounded, I asked Grandpa's widow, my paternal grandma, for guidance. Hearing what was happening, she became enraged. She informed me that my parents had no authority to alter the will and that this was exactly not what Grandpa had planned. Grandma sent some material that clarifies the matter. Several years ago, apparently, my parents asked Grandpa to give everything to Amy in his will. Grandpa had steadfastly objected, saying he thought all of his grandchildren should be treated equally. He had even included a stipulation in his will declaring that anyone challenging the equitable distribution would lose their portion. Equipped with this knowledge, I challenged my parents. Grandma's disclosure of their earlier attempt to affect the will startled them. Saying they were only looking out Amy's future helped my dad try to defend it, but I could see the guilt on their faces. Grandmother acted right away. She got in touch with her will's other executors and attorney. She also got in touch with my dad's siblings, who shared her equally strong indignation at what he was attempting. Taken together, they stopped my dad's scheme and guaranteed that the will would be carried out as stated. Though they are unhappy with me, my parents were obliged to back off. They argued I should have handled this in-house instead of involving others and accused me of turning the family against me. My mother sobbed over how I had split the family and deceived them. I said I had never expected anything from them anyway, when my dad threatened to cut me out of their will totally. Now, should I accept the inheritance, they are threatening to break off all communication. My dad even went so far as to suggest that I would not be welcome in their house should I inherit it. In a particularly low blow, my mother remarked that my acceptance of the money reveals that I never truly loved them and was merely ready to profit from their passing. The matter splits the extended family. A few of my cousins are encouraging since they understand the long-standing favoritism and value me for advocating myself. Others believe I should have yielded in order to preserve peace since family harmony comes first over financial considerations. Although my dad's siblings are definitely on my side, this has strained their relationship as well as my parents. Amy finds herself enmeshed in all this. She confided in me privately that although she feels bad and didn't ask for this, she is not ready to challenge our parents. She's been trained her whole life to depend on them and seek their praise, hence I don't blame her totally. Still, a part of me longs she would help me just once. This circumstance has brought out a lot of past suffering and bitterness. I find myself remembering all the times I was passed over or discounted in favor of Amy, the birthday celebrations I missed, the school functions my parents missed, the successes that went unreported. This one occurrence seems to be bringing to a head a lifetime of unfairness. Though the whole affair has caused a great divide in the family, I am keeping my ground and want to take my inheritance as Grandpa meant. My parents hardly talk to me, and family get-togethers have grown awkward. I missed our monthly family meal last week for the first time ever since I could stand the cold shoulders and accusing glares. Though there is turmoil, a tiny bit of me feels empowered. I'm confronting the unfair treatment by my parents for the first time in my life. I'm declaring my value and refuse to be written off. It's both terrible and freeing at once. Though I think I'm in the right here, the family drama is draining me. Something I hadn't experienced since college, I have started having anxiety attacks once more. To assist handle all this stress, I'm thinking about returning to therapy. Am I the one who should have refused to comply with my parents' expectations and accepted my inheritance? Should I have simply handed Amy the money to maintain peace? Although I'm bored of being the family scapegoat, I also fear losing my family totally. Any guidance or viewpoint would be much valued. Update. Since my first post 6 months ago, a lot has happened. I want to thank everyone for their support and guidance. It truly kept me strong during trying circumstances. Let me start with the legal aspect of things. Many of you advised, and I did see my own attorney. He verified that I had every right to inherit and that what my dad attempted was in fact illegal. He helped me record everything and ready to act legally should needed. Fortunately, things did not transpire as such. Along with my dad's siblings, my grandma and her attorney worked out matters without involving court. I got my whole fortune and the will was carried out exactly as intended. Because of his will manipulation attempts, my dad was removed as an executor. This was a somewhat demanding process spanning several weeks. My parents threatened litigation, there were tense meetings and furious phone calls, but ultimately the law was unambiguous and they had to back off. Still ongoing though, the family fallout has been noteworthy. At first, my parents doubled down on their viewpoint. They charged me with being avaricious and neglectful of my sister. They also sought to mobilize other family members against me, disseminating allegations that I had somehow coerced Grandpa into giving me money. Luckily, most of the family saw through their trickery. About 1 month following the will's acceptance, there was one really unpleasant occurrence at a family gathering. When my parents showed there unannounced, my aunt was hosting and hadn't asked them to come, they started a scene. Starting to shout about how I had taken from Amy and corrupted Grandma against her, my dad became saying I had ruined all these wonderful memories. My mother flung an old photo album squarely at my feet. It was awkward and terrible. It took several relatives to cool things down and persuade my parents to leave. Bless her heart, my grandmother turned out to be my most powerful supporter over all of this. She related tales of how my grandfather had always been pleased of my achievements and how he especially wanted to make sure all his grandchildren had equal chances. She even said Grandpa had maintained a scrapbook of my accomplishments, newspaper clippings of academic honors, copies of my college acceptance letters, and even the program from that university play my parents had been late for. This insight was sad as well as wonderful. Grandma also volunteered to straighten the records with the wider family. She organized a family gathering excluding my parents, laying out the entire history of my parents' partiality including events I had long forgotten or never ever heard about. Having someone at last recognize the unfairness I had gone through for years was vindicating, but it also reopened old scars. About my sister Amy, she at last found her voice in all this. She came to me personally and apologized for not sticking up for me earlier after some soul-searching and several long talks with our grandmother. She said she thought our parents' preference was improper, but she had been too terrified to confront it. We discussed our childhood and how it influenced both of us in great length and emotional intensity. Amy admitted that being the favorite child wasn't as wonderful as it seemed. She never learned how to stand on her 2 feet and felt great pressure to live up to our parents' expectations. She told tales of times she yearned to accomplish things on her own, but our parents would swoop in and handle everything for her, therefore depriving her of the opportunity to develop and learn from her mistakes. For our relationship, this talk marked a sea change. We began to mend the sibling link our parents' partiality had broken. Just the two of us have been routinely meeting for coffee to discuss and encourage one another through this family crisis. Declaring that she was going to pay for college with her inheritance astonished everyone. She claimed seeing me stand up for myself motivated her to start managing her own life. Once she decided what she wanted to study, she registered in a nearby community college, first intending to transfer to a 4-year university. Our parents let out startled gasps. They knew, I believe, that their babying had not done Amy any favors. The response of my parents to all this has been diverse and changing. They first attacked both of us angrily. They tried to guilt Amy into quitting college to help the family since they said I turned her against them. They changed strategy when that proved ineffective. After several protracted talks with my grandmother and seeing Amy's great transformation, my mother began to recognize how damaging their actions had been. She has made some hesitant moves toward reconciliation, even beginning therapy to address her problems. She got in touch to apologies, owning that she had been unfair and requesting a chance to right things. It's a slow process, and while I'm gently hopeful, I'm also keeping strong limits. Sadly, my dad has been less likely to own any mistakes. Still furious, he feels as though he is the victim in all this. He has been chilly toward Amy since she chose to go college and hardly speaks to me. He has tried a few times to control us, threatening to sell our childhood house should we fail to come to our senses or forgiving us should we realize we were wrong. Although we are both standing strong, it hurts to see him distance both of his children like this. The dynamics among the extended family have changed dramatically. I now live closer to my dad's siblings, who have been quite helpful, and my grandmother. Having heard from my aunts and uncles about handling my dad's challenging conduct over the years, it has lessened my loneliness in this fight. Deeper bonds with some of my cousins who stood by me have also developed. Starting a monthly cousin meal allows us to all catch up free from the drama of the older generations. For myself, I have been making sensible use of my inheritance. Having paid off my college loans, I now feel an amazing degree of financial freedom. Working with a financial advisor, I have assembled a varied investment portfolio. I have also set aside some funds to maybe launch my own company some years forward. Opening a community center with reasonably priced mental health treatments and financial literacy seminars is something I'm investigating. But for me, buying therapy for myself and volunteering to do the same for Amy has been the most significant application of the money. Both of us are learning to set reasonable limits with our parents and are working on healing from our childhood events. Though it's a long road, I already feel as though I'm developing in knowledge and ability to overcome emotional neglect and long-term partiality. This whole process has brought some surprising good improvements into my life. I now know a great deal about establishing limits and defending myself. Though I know I did the right thing, it hasn't been easy and there are still difficult days. I feel good about myself for resisting guilt and pressure. Among the most unexpected results has been a change in my work path. Dealing with all this family conflict and undergoing therapy has helped me to see my own passion about supporting people who, dealing with all this family dysfunction and doing therapy has helped me to see how driven I am about supporting others who have gone through same family dynamics. Currently thinking about returning to school to specialize in adult children of emotionally immature parents and work as a family therapist. I have also been helping youngsters from challenging family homes at a nearby youth facility. Being able to offer the kind of encouragement and support I wish I had had as a youngster is immensely satisfying. I'm even considering creating a scholarship fund for children from same circumstances using some of my inheritance. My contact with Amy has kept getting better. Once a month, we have a siblings' day when we do something entertaining, just the two of us. Our hiking and picnic last month was the most laid back and connected we had felt since we were small children. Without our parents' influence, we are gently reconstructing our connection on our own terms. Regarding my parents, things remain tricky. Our relationship has been trying to be rebuilt by my mom. She has been routinely attending therapy and has even begun to see some of the damage her favoritism brought about. We have had a few one-on-one lunches when we have had some honest, though challenging talks regarding our past and forward direction. Though it's not flawless, improvement is evident. My dad still objects to change though. He still says he done nothing illegal and that Amy and I should be appreciative. He refuses to be in the same room with me, hence he missed several family functions. Though it hurts, I am trying to let go of my need to compel him to see things differently or control his reactions. For both Amy and me, Grandma now serves as a rock. She has been sharing additional tales about our grandfather and his pride of us for advocating for ourselves. She always supports justice and understanding, thus she has been a fantastic mediator in family problems. The whole process has imparted a lot of lessons about the actual meaning of family. I've come to see that occasionally the family you select might be more encouraging than the one you were raised in. Along with developing a close-knit circle of friends who have been quite helpful along this journey, I have grown closer to my aunts, uncles, and cousins who stood by me. Setting limits and practicing self-care have also become more crucial to me. I'm growing better at saying no to circumstances that compromise my mental health, and I no longer feel bad about giving my personal well-being top priority. I was so preoccupied with trying to achieve my parents' favor that I had always put off investigating new interests and hobbies. To those in same circumstances, I would wish to advise: not let someone make you feel bad about getting what is rightly yours. Even if it generates controversy, it's reasonable to defend yourself. Though family dynamics might be complex, you are deserving of fair treatment. Remember, you never have too late to begin developing the life you are due. See a therapist if necessary. Surround yourself with encouraging people. And don't hesitate to establish limits. Who you are personally defines your value, not how your family treats you. I want to thank each of you once more for your suggestions and encouragement. It meant more than what you would have known during a really trying period. Although the road has not been simple, I am excited about the future and confident in self-assurance I have not experienced in years. Where this new chapter of my life will lead excites me, and I am resolved to stop the pattern of favoritism and build better relationships in my own future family. Regarding my parents, things remain tricky. Our relationship has been trying to be rebuilt by my mom. She has been routinely attending therapy and has even begun to see some of the damage her favoritism brought about. We have had a few one-on-one lunches when we have had some honest, though challenging talks regarding our past and forward direction. Though it's not flawless, improvement is evident. My dad still objects to change though. He still says he done nothing illegal and that Amy and I should be appreciative. He refuses to be in the same room with me, hence he missed several family functions. Though it hurts, I am trying to let go of my need to compel him to see things differently or control his reactions. For both Amy and me, Grandma now serves as a rock. She has been sharing additional tales about our grandfather and his pride of us for advocating for ourselves. She always supports justice and understanding, thus she has been a fantastic mediator in family problems. The whole process has imparted a lot of lessons about the actual meaning of family. I've come to see that occasionally the family you select might be more encouraging than the one you were raised in. Along with developing a close-knit circle of friends who have been quite helpful along this journey, I have grown closer to my aunts, uncles, and cousins who stood by me. Setting limits and practicing self-care have also become more crucial to me. I'm growing better at saying no to circumstances that compromise my mental health, and I no longer feel bad about giving my personal well-being top priority. I was so preoccupied with trying to achieve my parents' favor that I had always put off investigating new interests and hobbies. To those in same circumstances, I would wish to advise not let someone make you feel bad about getting what is rightly yours. Even if it generates controversy, it's reasonable to defend yourself. Though family dynamics might be complex, you are deserving of fair treatment. Remember, you never have too late to begin developing the life you are due. See a therapist if necessary. Surround yourself with encouraging people. And don't hesitate to establish limits. Who you are personally defines your value, not how your family treats you. I want to thank each of you once more for your suggestions and encouragement. It meant more than what you would have known during a really trying period. Although the road has not been simple, I am excited about the future and confident in self-assurance I have not experienced in years. Where this new chapter of my life will lead excites me, and I am resolved to stop the pattern of favoritism and build better relationships in my own future family.
Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.
Before passing away, my dear friend played matchmaker, connecting me with her attractive male friend in her final days. I don't have anyone to share this story with on June 13, 2024. I made a friend named Judy, not her real name, at a writing group. She is 95 years old and I am 62 years old. I visited her at her apartment a few times, helped her with her computer, and we really hit it off. She told me that some medication she was taking was making her feel sick. When I asked what it was for, she said she was riddled with bone cancer. She published a book of poetry, and I went to her book launch party at the beginning of May. She had a friend there named Mike, not his real name, who was about my age. I found him to be a very attractive and intelligent man. I asked Judy if he was single, and she said he was. Judy had often mentioned what a wonderful person Mike was and what a great friend he had been to her. He is also a writer. I tried to flirt with him and ask him out, but he was chatting with another woman about publishing. Feeling embarrassed, I left. Yesterday, I received an email from someone in our writing group informing me that Judy had decided to end her life after having a stroke about 2 weeks ago. She had not been well for the last month. Medical assistance in dying is completely legal in Canada. I was shocked to hear this as she seemed so well and in good spirits the last time I saw her. I decided to call her to say goodbye. We had a lovely chat yesterday, and she told me she was happy with her decision to end her life this Saturday afternoon, with her family coming to be with her. We had a good conversation, and I expressed my appreciation for her friendship. I told her I believed her late husband would welcome her to the other side. It saddened me to think I would never see my friend Judy again. I thought that chapter with Judy was now closed. Just about 5 minutes ago, I received a phone call from Judy. She wanted to give me Mike's phone number and asked me to call him. Apparently, he thought I was a very nice person and wanted to know more about me. I explained that I liked him very much and found him very attractive, but felt embarrassed and left. Judy found this funny and cute. Apparently, I had made some impression on him because he mentioned me to Judy several times. She gave me his phone number and asked me to call him, thinking we would be good for each other. I said I would call him in a week or so. What a lovely gesture, playing matchmaker for 2 of her friends before she leaves this world. I have been quite lonely lately and really want a partner in my life. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, OMG, call him. So you can give her a final update before passing. What a sweet story. OP, I said I would wait to call him and she agreed that it would be best to wait about a week. But what if I did call him and things didn't go well and then I would have to tell her that before she passed? Commenter 2, girl? He asked about you. If things don't go well for some reason, I can't think of any, you can at least tell your friend you've been in contact. I'm sorry for your coming loss, your friend will no doubt be watching over you, whatever happens. Good luck. I have to go show my daughter this cute story now. You've got to update me if things go well. Update 1, Posted in a separate post on June 14, 2024, the morning after the original post. She called me again this morning and asked me to come to her apartment to pick up an envelope to bring to him and ask him out for lunch and to call him later today. She said she wants to know what happens. Commenter 3. I'm so excited for you. Try to calm your nerves. Just be your lovely self that your friend admires so much. This sounds like the universe has plans for you. Commenter 4. OMG. I am loving this. Go get that man, girl. And so good on you for supporting your friend during this time. I think it is actually pretty amazing that we are getting to the point of being able to have dignity in the end, and choosing when we are ready to be done. 95 years is a long life, and I hope it was just as beautiful as it sounds like Judy is. Update 2. Judy the almost heavenly matchmaker. June 14, 2024, one day after original post, 3 hours after the mini update in the comments. Update. I have the envelope in hand and have arranged to meet him for coffee in 1 hour. Judy gave me an envelope and wants us to read it together. I am at the coffee shop waiting for him right now. She wants me to report back to her this afternoon. Relevant comments. Commenter 5. I just saw your first post, and number 1, Judy sounds like such a wonderful person. I think we all need a Judy in our lives. Number 2, I am waiting with bated breath and on the tips of my toes. This internet stranger has nothing but the best of wants and wishes for you, dear friend. I hope you and Mike are just beginning a beautiful love story. Commenter 6. This is the beginning of something so good. Commenter 7. I'm so invested. Tell us how it went. Update 3. Judy, the almost heavenly matchmaker. June 14, 2024, 4 hours later. I nervously waited for Mike to arrive. He was about 5 minutes late. When he arrived, I explained to him that this meeting was not my idea and that Judy had asked me to meet him. She had called me again and asked me to bring him the envelope and open it together. He said that sounded just like her. He predicted what was going to be in the envelope. He told me that he had known her for about 10 years, whereas I had only known her for about 8 months. We talked about our lives and what we had done, including jobs, careers, marriage, divorce and kids, etc. He is a very intelligent, funny, and attractive man. We seemed to be compatible. He told me that after I met him one time at the book party, he had commented to Judy that he found me very forthright and attractive. At that book launch party, I wanted to talk to him more, but another woman monopolized his attention, talking about some kind of publishing. He apologized for talking to the other lady instead of me. He said he couldn't stand her and had tried to get away from her to chat with me more, but when he turned around, I was gone. I told him that I was embarrassed because I had asked him out and then left because I felt so embarrassed. Anyway, we had a great time at the restaurant, chatting about pretty much everything in life. He asked me if I wanted to go to dinner at a nice, fancy waterfront restaurant. He asked if I had been there before, and I said I had not. I had to leave because I had to get back to work. I asked him if he wanted to meet another time to open the envelope, and he said, "No, I want to open it right now. I want to see what she is up to." So I sat beside him, and we opened the envelope together. It was just as he had predicted, a beautiful handwritten note and a bunch of cash, $450. The note expressed her love forever and ever and said, "Please go and have a nice supper." I said that there were several nice suppers. I told him he was right about his prediction. He said he didn't want the money, and I said I didn't want it either. But if I took it back to her apartment, her son would get it tomorrow. So I said she wanted us to have it, so we should keep it. He asked me to keep it in my handbag. So we left the coffee envelope meeting, and I gave him a warm hug. He said he would call me and we would go out for dinner. As we parted, we talked a little bit about what an amazing person Judy was and how we were both going to miss her. I called Judy and told her what had transpired. She said, "I am so pleased." I told her that Mike was going to call her later this afternoon as well. Tomorrow, her family is going to be there with her when she departs this world. Relevant comments. Commenter 8. Judy is definitely an amazing person. May we all find Judy in our lifetimes. Most valuable person and rest in peace. Commenter 9. Wow, OP, Judy is really something beyond amazing. She will be missed. It's like karma brought you two together. Best wishes. OP, thanks. I hope it turns into something good, and if it doesn't, I have definitely made a new friend in Mike. Update 4. Judy the now in heaven matchmaker, June 16, 2024, 3 days from original post. Judy transcended yesterday. Mike and I have talked on the phone a few times a day since we met on Friday and opened the envelope, and we also have been texting. Seems like we really have clicked. I am kind of astonished at this whole situation. Today, Sunday, We are going to an IMAX movie together this afternoon. I invited him to go with me to my regular weekly pub afternoon with my friends. He said he would love to join us. We are both open to seeing where this goes. Relevant comments. Commenter 10, I'm so happy for you. It's so nice to read a story like this on Reddit. Still crying for Judy. Commenter 11, GNU Judy original poster. What does GNU mean? I asked the internet and it said a Linux operating system. Commenter 12, celebrated author Sir Terry Pratchett's Discworld novel, Going Postal, tells of the creation of an internet-like system of communication towers called the Clacks. When John Deerhart, the son of its inventor, is murdered, a piece of code is written called GNU John Deerhart, to echo his name up and down the lines. G means that the message must be passed on, N means not logged, and U means the message should be turned around at the end of a line. This was also a real-world tech joke. GNU is a free operating system, and its name stands, with a recursive geek humor, for GNU's not Unix. The code causes Deerhart's name to be repeated indefinitely throughout the system because a man is not dead while his name is still spoken. Fans of his often use GNU names as a way to honor not only Sir Terry but lost loved ones of their own. It is a way to keep their name alive. From what you wrote about her, it is clear Judy was someone who should be remembered. Update 5. Judy the Heavenly Matchmaker. June 22, 2024, 9 days from original post. Just thought you guys might want to know how things are going. Yesterday marked 1 full week since we opened the envelope. A lot has happened. We have been seeing each other every other day, and last night Mike came over to my house and things were said and done that made it clear that we are now an item. We actually have a lot in common and really enjoy each other's company. I am rather mind blown by how my life has turned around into something new in the past week. I was pretty bored and lonely and quite sad. Now I feel happy and invigorated. I am ever so grateful that Judy came into my life and sent me Mike. Relevant comments. Commenter 13. Great update. You never know what life has planned for us. Keep on updating us. Editor's note, things are off to a good start with OP's budding relationship with Mike. Hopefully, she will give us further updates down the road. The last few comments in the post summarize parts of the above story. First, in Judaism, we do not say REP or rest in peace. We say Zet or Zikrono Livracha, which translates to may their memory be a blessing. I always felt that GNU mirrors that sentiment, and while I do not know Westworld, you live as long as the last person who remembers you is an amazing and accurate phrase in the same vein. Second, it is even more amazing when you consider it is said by a robot that brought himself to sentience after he realized that all his fellow robots were having their memories wiped, reset, or they were being replaced by other units. So he made a commitment to remember them, for those who had loved them. Like I said, an absolute gut punch. The episode Kiksuya, which is performed largely in Lakota, is one of the best episodes of television I've seen in any show. You think it is a bottle episode because it is about a fringe character, and it turns out to be an anchor to it all. Commenter 14, Judy sounds like the best kind of person. I hope her passing was peaceful and she was surrounded by love. I hope this is not overstepping, but given her love of writing, is there a significance to the date she chose? It is Bloomsday from Ulysses. I thought that was a sweet coincidence for a book lover. Although maybe it was not a coincidence. Best of luck to you and Mike, and I hope you continue to be very happy. Commenter 15. For anyone who is in doubt about reading it, this is pretty much the saddest, most heart-wrenching story on all of Reddit, and I'm not exaggerating. It is the kind of story that appears in nearly every thread about sad stories, and for good reason. Commenter 16. I want to believe and hope that their ages, life experiences, and the light-hearted nature surrounding Judy's passing would prevent them from feeling any undue pressure. It did not seem like the original poster viewed this as some final wish of Judy's, but rather just a friend trying to play matchmaker during what happened to be the final chapter of her life. It's clear that Judy's intentions were to bring some joy and companionship to her friends, and it's heartwarming to see such efforts. Regardless of how things turn out, I am rooting for them and wish them all the best in finding happiness together. Commenter 17. I am so glad this was the last unread best of Redditor updates that I had. I never stop after the palate cleansers, even when knowing full well that I should. Thank you to the gods of best of Redditor updates. I am so glad that Judy got to choose how and when she wanted to go, got to do one last bit of matchmaking, and is now on the other side with her loved ones. May we all be so fortunate, cancer aside of course.
Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.
Papá engañó a mamá mientras ésta se moría. Di unas palabras, hijo, dijo en el brindis de su boda. Yo lo hice y quemé su cuento de hadas hasta los cimientos. Me llamó una desgracia, así que levanté mi copa y dije la verdad. Cuando terminé, a su padrino se le cayó la copa y la novia gritó. El desastre comenzó en ese momento. Mi padre me tachó de avergonzado por no haber brindado por su nueva novia durante la boda. Me levanté, extendí mi copa y dije: brindo por la mujer que se acostó con mi padre mientras mi madre se moría. El champán de su padrino cayó al suelo. Su novia soltó un chillido. El sacerdote se fue después de lo que ocurrió. Risas, tintineo de copas y el murmullo de una costosa banda en directo que tocaba una suave melodía romántica llenaron el salón de baile del Hotel Fairmont en el centro de Chicago. Todo en la escena estaba hecho con buen gusto. Candelabros dorados, centros de mesa con flores blancas y servilletas de lino cuidadosamente dobladas junto a platos que probablemente costaban más que mi alquiler. Esta boda gritaba dinero en todos los sentidos. Fue ostentosa, absurda y, para ser sincero, ofensiva. Mi plato estaba prácticamente intacto y mi vaso de whisky medio vacío cuando me senté en una mesa redonda cerca del frente. Stephanie, mi hermana, estaba sentada a mi lado, jugueteando nerviosamente con el mantel azul marino. En silencio, ¿estás bien?, preguntó. Dejé escapar un suspiro por la nariz. Peachy, el hombre del momento, nuestro padre, Richard Holloway, estaba de pie cerca de la pista de baile, sonriendo como si no hubiera prendido fuego a nuestra familia, y ella lo miró fijamente. Rodeó con firmeza la cintura de su nueva esposa, Verónica, que había sido su esposa durante mucho tiempo antes de que mi madre muriera. Agarré mi copa con más fuerza. Este no es el lugar donde debería estar. No pensaba asistir. Había tirado la gruesa, preciosa y dorada invitación de cartón en relieve directamente a la basura cuando llegó. No dudé en absoluto. Entonces recibí una llamada de Stephanie. Alex, por favor, me había rogado con voz entrecortada por teléfono. Sé que lo odias. Yo también, pero no puedo hacer esto sola. Apreté el puente de mi nariz hacia adentro. ¿De verdad quieres ver cómo papá se casa con ella? No, dijo ella, pero si tengo que sufrirlo, quiero que estés allí conmigo. De repente, me encontré sentada en una silla rígida en una boda innecesaria en un avión que regresaba a Chicago, viendo a mi padre jugar felices para siempre con la mujer que había contribuido a la disolución de mi familia. Lo peor es que los visitantes lo estaban disfrutando inmensamente. Richard era un hombre respetado para ellos, un abogado conocido, un padre cariñoso, un viudo de luto que se había vuelto a enamorar. Mentiras. La verdad les era desconocida. No sabían que mi padre se estaba mudando a escondidas con Verónica a sus espaldas mientras mi madre, Martha Holloway, se estaba muriendo de cáncer de ovario y apenas podía levantar la cabeza de la almohada. Y aquí estamos ahora. Stephanie dijo a mi lado, ¿te estás bebiendo eso o solo te lo estás mirando? Mis dedos aún estaban enredados en mi vaso de whisky cuando parpadeé, dejando que el ardor se asentara en mi garganta. Tomé un trago lento. Ambas cosas, dije con amargura. Soltó una risita, pero su rostro seguía tenso. No sé cómo te las arreglas para mantener la compostura ahora mismo. ¿Quién dice que lo estoy? Durante toda la noche, pude sentir que los ojos de mi padre se desviaban en mi dirección. No me quería allí, y lo sabía. Estaba intentando pintar el cuadro ideal, pero yo no estaba en él. Sin embargo, Stephanie había insistido y él me había invitado a regañadientes, presumiblemente pensando que diría que no. Debería haber tenido muchísima suerte. Estaba a punto de pedir otra copa cuando mi padre hizo algo que acabaría con su vida. Su copa chasqueó. Se hizo el silencio en todo el salón de baile. Con esa sonrisa entrañable y bien practicada que siempre lucía en los juzgados y clubes de campo, Richard se aclaró la garganta. En primer lugar, quiero agradecer a todos por estar aquí esta noche, dijo. Este es un día especial, no solo para mí, sino también para Verónica. Somos muy afortunados de tener una familia y unos amigos tan increíbles para celebrar este nuevo capítulo de nuestras vidas. Hubo un aplauso educado. Apreté la mandíbula. Al igual que el último capítulo, La vida de mi madre, el nuevo era un libro que estaba ansioso por cerrar. Por supuesto, dijo, quiero tomarme un momento para reconocer a mis hijos, Stephanie y Alex. Se me revolvió el estómago. Han pasado por muchas cosas este último año y sé lo difíciles que pueden ser las transiciones. Pero Stephanie, cariño, has sido un alma tan fuerte y hermosa en todo esto. No podría estar más orgulloso de la mujer en la que te has convertido. Stephanie apretó los dientes y sonrió. Mi padre se volvió hacia mí. Y Alex, dijo. Le devolví la mirada en blanco. Continuó, con voz tranquila y ensayada. Sé que hemos tenido nuestras diferencias, pero la familia es la familia. Y en aras de la unidad, me encantaría que dijeras unas palabras. Mi cuerpo se congeló. Se hizo el silencio en la sala. Stephanie parecía tan sorprendida como yo cuando la miré. Mi padre me sonrió esperanzado. Vamos, hijo. No seas una desgracia. Los comentarios fueron como una patada en el estómago. De repente, perdí los estribos. Me levanté con cuidado y recogí mi copa. La sala esperaba y me observaba. Inhalé profundamente, y ahora brindo por la mujer que se acostó con mi padre mientras mi madre se moría. El impacto fue inmediato. La multitud resonó con un grito ahogado. Se escuchó el sonido de un tenedor golpeando un plato. Peter, el padrino de mi padre, dejó caer su copa de champán al suelo después de manipularla torpemente. La sonrisa impecable de Verónica se desvaneció mientras su rostro perdía todo su color. Entonces comenzó el caos. Verónica gritó, ¿qué diablos, Alex? Su voz atravesó el silencio como una daga. La sala resonó con un susurro. Acaba de decir, oh, Dios mío. El rostro de Richard se puso serio. Siéntate. Permanecí inmóvil. No, la ira brilló en sus ojos. No tienes ni idea de lo que estás hablando. ¿De verdad? Pregunté con una risa amarga. Porque recuerdo a mamá llorando hasta quedarse dormida cuando trabajabas hasta tarde. Recuerdo los susurros, los recibos del hotel, el perfume en tus camisas que no eran suyas. Lo recuerdo todo. Verónica apretó los puños. Estás mintiendo. ¿De verdad? Repliqué. Porque la última vez que lo comprobé, las amantes no suelen recibir anillos de boda. A mi lado, Stephanie contuvo un sollozo. Mi padre dijo, basta, en voz alta. No vas a arruinar esta noche. Me burlé. Arrójala, papá. La arruinaste. Nos arruinaste a nosotros y ni siquiera te importa. El ambiente tenso de la sala era opresivo. El sacerdote se puso de pie, se quitó las gafas y dejó escapar un suspiro. Susurró, ¿sabes qué? Ya terminé. El sacerdote se fue de la boda después de decir eso. Los murmullos se convirtieron en discusiones en toda regla. Richard, furioso, se volvió hacia mí. Vete. Dejé mi copa con cuidado sobre la mesa. Con mucho gusto. La boda ideal de mi padre estaba en ruinas cuando salí de la recepción sin darme la vuelta. El corazón me latía con fuerza en los oídos al salir del salón de baile. Espejos decorativos y costosos arreglos florales se alineaban en el gran pasillo tenuemente iluminado fuera de la recepción, reflejando el rostro de un hombre que por fin, había dicho su verdad. Tuve que respirar. Abrí las enormes puertas de la terraza al aire libre con manos temblorosas. La fría y fresca noche de Chicago parecía una bofetada en mi cálida piel. Apoyándome en la barandilla de piedra y sujetándome al borde con los dedos hasta que los nudillos se me pusieron blancos, inhalé profundamente. En marcado contraste con el pandemonio que había dejado atrás, todo parecía tranquilo allí fuera. Había quemado toda la boda de mi padre después de que me declarara avergonzada. Dejé escapar un suspiro que fue audible en el frío aire de la noche. ¿Se esperaba que me sintiera mal? Me sentí aliviada, furiosa. Hice de mí un lugar intermedio. Alex. El sonido de la voz de mi hermana me hizo girar. Stephanie había salido al patio detrás de mí, sus zapatos repiqueteaban sobre la piedra, sus ojos aún estaban nublados por las lágrimas y sus mejillas estaban acaloradas. Dije, ¿estás bien? En voz baja. Ella rió entre dientes. Con una fuerte exhalación, se pasó una mano por sus rizos oscuros y preguntó, ¿estoy bien? Debería preguntarte eso a ti. Me pasé la palma de la mano por la cara y giré la cabeza. No lo sé, Stephanie. Simplemente no podía dejar que se saliera con la suya tan suavemente. No lo hiciste, dijo. Créeme, no lo hiciste. La miré rápidamente. ¿Me había pasado de la raya? Soltó un bufido. Te has pasado de la raya, Alex, acabas de arruinar la boda de papá. Creo que, pasarse de la raya, es quedarse corto. Exhalé bruscamente. Sí. Se cruzó de brazos y se apoyó en la barandilla a mi lado. Ladeó la cabeza y dijo, quiero decir, probablemente yo no lo habría hecho de esa manera, pero no te culpo. Ni siquiera un poco. Con las luces distantes de la ciudad parpadeando, el silencio descendió entre nosotros. Después de un tiempo, Stephanie susurró, mamá habría querido esto, ¿no? Se me tragó el nudo en la garganta. Sí, murmuré. Creo que lo habría hecho. Parpadeó rápidamente mientras asentía. Agarré su mano y se la apreté ligeramente. Le pregunté, ¿siguen ahí? Comillas. Ella respiró temblorosa otra vez. Me miró y dijo, oh, sí. Los invitados siguen susurrando. Papá está tratando de controlar los daños, pero es grave. Verónica parecía que iba a arder. Y el sacerdote se fue directamente. Una risa seca se escapó de mi boca. Bien. Stephanie sonrió. Sinceramente, sí. De repente, la puerta detrás de nosotros se abrió. Ambos nos dimos la vuelta y nuestro padre, Richard Holloway, estaba allí de pie. Tenía la mandíbula tan apretada que sentí que se le iban a romper los dientes, y su rostro mostraba una rabia apenas contenida. Se había desabrochado la chaqueta del smoking como si la hubiera abierto de golpe con exasperación. Tenía las manos a los costados, tenía los puños apretados. Stephanie, murmuró con voz tranquila y firme. Entra. Ella se tensó. No, su mirada se desvió hacia la mía. Avancé, interponiéndome en su camino. Ella se queda. Su voz se mantuvo firme mientras sus fosas nasales se dilataban. No quiero hacer esto aquí. Sonreí con desprecio. Luego señalé el salón de baile y dije, Oh, ahora te importan las apariencias. Estoy bastante seguro de que ese barco zarpó cuando me llamaste desgracia delante de 200 personas. Apretó la mandíbula. Me humillaste. Me reí sin humor. Negué con la cabeza y dije, ¿te has avergonzado, papá? Podrías haberme dejado sentado allí en silencio. Pero no, tenías que arrastrarme a ello. Tenías que hacerme seguir el juego con tu pequeño cuento de hadas. Su voz se fue apagando mientras se acercaba. No tenías derecho a hacer lo que hiciste. Sin pestañear, lo miré a los ojos. Y tú no tenías derecho a hacer lo que hiciste. Su mirada se volvió sombría. No lo entiendes. Lo interrumpí bruscamente y le dije, no lo hagas. No te atrevas a intentar justificarlo. Yo estaba allí, papá. Vi lo que le hizo. Vi a mamá consumirse en esa cama de hospital mientras tú estabas con ella. A mi lado, Stephanie respiró hondo, pero no dijo nada. Lentamente, como si intentara recuperar el control, Richard soltó el aliento. No sabes cómo fue mi matrimonio con tu madre. Mi sangre se heló. Disculpa. Su rostro se puso severo. Alex, no fue perfecto. Ella se detuvo y negó con la cabeza. Había problemas mucho antes de Verónica. Lo miré boquiabierta, conmocionada. Estallé de rabia y dije, no puedes hacer eso. No puedes reescribir la historia solo para sentirte mejor. Ella te amaba. Confiaba en ti. Y se lo pagaste engañándola mientras se estaba muriendo. Apretó los labios. Yo estaba triste. De hecho, me reí. ¿Tú estabas triste? Pregunté, extendiendo la mano. ¿Tienes idea de cuánto dolor estaba sintiendo mamá? ¿Cómo se aferraba a la esperanza de que tal vez tú todavía la amabas? ¿Y tú qué? ¿Aburrido? La expresión de Richard se volvió sombría. Mira. No, grité. Cuídate. Porque ya no te dejaré fingir que eres una especie de víctima. Tomaste una decisión, papá. Elegiste a Verónica en lugar de a mamá. En lugar de a nosotros. Cállate. Por primera vez en mi vida, noté algo que casi parecía culpa en el rostro de mi padre. Sin embargo, pasó demasiado pronto. En cambio, se pasó una mano por el smoking y se enderezó. Su voz era gélida cuando volvió a hablar. Si te alejas de mí ahora, te alejas para siempre, afirmó el hombre. ¿Es eso lo que quieres? Lo miré fijamente. Era esto. Creía que podía aterrorizarme para que volviera a obedecer en este punto. Sin embargo, no lo comprendió porque ya había perdido a mi madre. No tenía miedo de perderlo en absoluto. Cuadré los hombros y lo miré a los ojos con cierta seguridad. Sí, eso es exactamente lo que quiero, respondí con firmeza. Si eso es lo que hace falta. A mi lado, Stephanie jadeó con acento agudo en silencio, pero no hizo ningún intento por detenerme. El rostro de Richard permaneció inalterado. En todo caso, su rostro estaba oculto tras una máscara ilegible mientras su mandíbula se tensaba. Entonces no vuelvas arrastrándote cuando te arrepientas, añadió. Negué con la cabeza y solté un suspiro. No lo haré. Después de decir eso, me di la vuelta y me fui. Tras un breve momento de vacilación, Stephanie me siguió. No nos dimos la vuelta ni una sola vez. Con todo lo que se nos venía encima, Stephanie y yo nos alejamos de nuestro padre, el aire frío me escocía en la piel. Aunque mi respiración era superficial y mis piernas pesaban, seguí caminando. Mi padre no nos llamó. No hizo ningún intento por detenerme. Excelente. No pensé que lo haría. Richard Holloway no era de los que se entregan a algo que se da por vencido. Stephanie y yo llegamos a la entrada lateral del hotel, donde algunos empleados estaban fumando. Estaban demasiado preocupados por el drama que estaba ocurriendo dentro del salón de baile como para mirarnos cuando pasamos. Stephanie se rodeó con sus brazos y olfateó a mi lado. Le dije, ¿estás bien? En un tono más suave. Ella negó con la cabeza y se rió secamente. ¿Estoy bien, Alex? Ni siquiera sé qué diablos acaba de pasar ahí dentro. Se giró para mirarme y dejó de caminar. ¿Te das cuenta de lo que acabas de hacer? Una mano me pasó por el pelo. Sí, lo sé. Me miró a la cara. ¿Y te arrepientes? Hice una pausa por un momento. La respuesta sincera fue, no, ni un poco. Stephanie asintió, dejando escapar un suspiro tembloroso. Sí, dijo en voz baja. Yo tampoco. Los ruidos del tráfico lejano llenaron el silencio entre nosotros mientras estábamos allí. Entonces Stephanie se rió una vez más, una risa genuina, una risa entrecortada y algo incrédula. Dios mío, Alex. El sacerdote salió. A pesar mío, sonreí. Sí, eso fue algo. Siguió sonriendo mientras negaba con la cabeza. Luego su rostro se puso serio. ¿Qué hacemos ahora? Solté un suspiro y miré hacia el cielo nocturno sobre Chicago. No lo sé, dije, pero sé que no voy a volver allí. Stephanie miró hacia la entrada del hotel y se mordió el labio. El aire todavía estaba lleno de los sonidos de la música y las voces apagadas. Dijo, deberíamos irnos, comillas. La miré. ¿Deberíamos quedarnos? Comillas. Después de pensarlo un poco, asintió. Buen punto. Comillas. La puerta detrás de nosotros se abrió de repente cuando giramos para ir al estacionamiento. Alex. Giramos. Verónica era la indicada. Como si casi hubiera corrido tras nosotros, su vestido de novia, un precioso vestido ajustado con intrincados adornos de encaje, se había subido por la parte inferior. Su rostro estaba contraído por la ira. Su maquillaje era impecable y sus mechones rubios estaban ahora ligeramente alborotados. Stephanie gimió suavemente. Oh, por el amor de Dios, con sus tacones repiqueteando ferozmente contra el pavimento. Verónica cargó en nuestra dirección. Me clavó un dedo con manicura en el pecho al detenerse. ¡Qué fastidio! Me has arruinado la boda. Ladeé la cabeza. ¿Lo hice? ¿O te arruinaste la vida cuando decidiste tirarte a un hombre casado? Sus ojos ardían. Arrogante y cuidadosa, dije. No querrías que un invitado oyera a la novia ruborizada haciendo una rabieta. Dio un pisotón. ¿De verdad? ¿Crees que esto es gracioso? ¿Crees que humillarnos delante de todo el mundo fue una especie de victoria para ti? Me crucé de brazos. Creo que era verdad. Algo con lo que ninguna de las dos parecía estar familiarizada. Arrugó la nariz. Pequeña, egoísta. A mi lado, Stephanie respiró hondo. Vaya. Verónica dio un paso adelante. Tu padre te lo dio todo. Construyó una vida para ti, ¿y así es como se lo pagas? Exhalé lenta y deliberadamente. ¿Quieres hablar de pago, Verónica? Mi madre pasó 25 años amando a un hombre que la traicionó mientras luchaba por su vida. ¿Y tú? Le hice un gesto. Tú formaste parte de ello. No puedes quedarte aquí con tu vestido de novia robado y hacerte la víctima. Abrió y cerró la boca, pero no salió nada. Stephanie soltó un silencioso, comillas. Verónica se recuperó rápido. Tu padre no se merece esto. Ya ha pasado por bastante. Algo dentro de mí se rompió. Ya ha pasado por bastante, dije en un tono más duro y furioso. ¿Te escuchas? Mi madre murió, ¿y crees que fue él quien sufrió? Comillas. La expresión de Verónica se contrajo. Comillas. Margaret, no digas su nombre, la interrumpí bruscamente. Hizo una pausa. Bajé la voz y di un paso adelante. No puedes fingir que te importa. No puedes actuar como si esta boda fuera un nuevo y hermoso comienzo cuando todos sabemos lo que realmente es. Su mandíbula se tensó mientras tragaba con fuerza. Mi voz sonó mortalmente tranquila mientras decía, eres solo otro capítulo en un libro de mentiras. Se quedó sin habla por primera vez esa noche. Claire se cruzó de brazos. Hemos terminado aquí, una pequeña línea se formó en los labios de Verónica. Sin decir una palabra más, giró sobre sus talones y se dirigió hacia el hotel. Vaya, murmuró Claire. Eso fue dramático. Exhalé lentamente. Sí, estoy agotada. Me miró. ¿De verdad estás bien? Hice una pausa. No lo sé, dije. Pero creo que sí, sonrió después de asentir lentamente. Bueno, ya que estamos vestidos y en la ciudad, ¿quieres ir a tomar unos cócteles caros a algún lugar elegante y fingir que pertenecemos allí? Una pequeña sonrisa se dibujó en mi boca. Esa podría ser la mejor idea que has tenido en toda la noche. Me rodeó con el brazo. Entonces, vámonos de aquí. Después de eso, dejamos atrás las ruinas de la boda de mi padre y abandonamos el Hotel Fairmont. Me sentí libre por primera vez en mucho tiempo. Mientras Stephanie y yo paseábamos por las concurridas calles de Chicago, el bullicio de la ciudad nos rodeaba. Disfrutaba del aire frío y estimulante, ya que necesitaba cualquier oportunidad para despejar mi mente. Stephanie me tomó del brazo y me preguntó, ¿de verdad vas a estar bien? Exhalé lentamente. Creo que sí. ¿Tú? Se encogió de hombros. Sinceramente, pensé que me sentiría culpable. Pensé que entraría en pánico por cómo acabábamos de prender fuego a la vida de papá. Sin embargo, se calló antes de sonreír. Me siento genial. Me reí con un suspiro. Bien. Finalmente llegamos a un bar de cócteles en River North, un elegante salón poblado por personas que parecían haber aparecido en portadas de revistas. Realmente no pertenecíamos allí, pero Claire insistió y razoné que deberíamos tomar algo de lujo después de todo lo que acabábamos de pasar. Después de pedir 2 bebidas extremadamente caras y deslizarnos en un reservado de cuero hacia el fondo, dejamos que la noche cayera sobre nosotros. Después de un tiempo, Claire removió su martini y dijo, «Sabes que vendrá a por nosotros, ¿verdad?» Asentí. «Sí, pero no me importa». Sonrió. «Entonces, ¿qué sigue?» Bebí mi whisky lentamente. Terminamos lo que empezamos y eso es precisamente lo que logramos. La boda de mi padre se volvió viral a la mañana siguiente. Cuando Stephanie y yo nos despertamos, nuestros teléfonos estaban llenos de llamadas perdidas, mensajes de texto y notificaciones de redes sociales. La controversia se había extendido como la pólvora. Al parecer, muchos de los invitados grabaron mi brindis en video. Internet hizo lo que bien sabe hacer una vez que alguien lo publicó en línea. El video se compartió ampliamente. El hijo del novio expone la aventura. Boda. El gran día de un abogado de Chicago se convierte en un colapso público. Un brindis de boda brutal denuncia la infidelidad del padre y estamos aquí para eso. Cuando Stephanie vio los titulares, casi se atraganta con su café. Dios mío, Alex, hemos roto Internet. Lee los comentarios de uno de los videos. Justicia para Margaret. Imagina que te llamen así el día de tu boda. No podría ser yo. Loki, el sacerdote que se va fue la parte más icónica. Te encanta ver el karma trabajando en tiempo real. No pude contener la risa. Por fin, el verdadero yo de mi padre se reveló al mundo. Mientras seguía mirando, Claire se preguntó, ¿crees que papá ya lo habrá visto? Como un reloj, sonó mi teléfono. ¿Cómo, Richard? Comillas. Dejé que sonara. Claire arqueó una ceja. No vas a contestar. Bebí un sorbo de café. No, frío. Sonrió. Me gusta. Pero aún no había terminado. La impecable reputación de mi padre comenzó a deteriorarse en el transcurso de los días siguientes. Su bufete de abogados, que se enorgullecía de su honestidad, no estaba contento con la controversia. Los clientes comenzaron a distanciarse de él porque no querían que se les relacionara con él. Entonces comenzaron a circular más rumores. La gente comenzó a investigar. Verónica no era la única amante. Resulta que había otros presentes. Varios. Algunos de ellos existían desde hacía años antes de la enfermedad de mamá. Stephanie y yo no teníamos que hacer nada. Internet hizo la tarea por nosotros. Mi padre renunció a su bufete una semana después. Verónica eliminó todas sus cuentas de redes sociales una semana después. La guinda del pastel fue cuando Verónica lo abandonó. La indignación y la humillación fueron demasiado para ella. Estaba entregada a una vida de lujo, riqueza y prestigio. No aceptó ser la mujer de aquel incidente nupcial que se hizo viral. Por eso, hizo las maletas y abandonó su vida tan solo 2 meses después de su terrible boda. Poética justicia. Claire y yo fuimos una tarde al cementerio de mamá. Allí reinaba el silencio. Guarda silencio. Las hileras de lápidas estaban bañadas en un resplandor dorado mientras el sol empezaba a ponerse. Quité algunas hojas caídas y puse un ramo de lirios frescos junto a su lápida. Hola, mamá, susurré. No vas a creer lo que hicimos. Claire, que estaba arrodillada a mi lado, se rió en voz baja. Te habría encantado. Mientras contemplaba su nombre grabado en piedra, exhalé. Sentí que podía respirar por primera vez en mucho tiempo, como si por fin le hubiéramos proporcionado la justicia que nunca pudo recibir mientras estuvo viva. No me arrepiento en absoluto. Richard Holloway hizo un intento, un mensaje de voz, poco entusiasta y lamentable. Alex, sé que las cosas se salieron de control, pero sigues siendo mi hijo. Deberíamos hablar. No escuché a los demás antes de borrarlo. Seguí adelante con Stephanie. ¿Qué hay de mi padre? Vivía solo en un condominio en el centro cuando supe de él por última vez. Su reputación está destruida. Su carrera se está deteriorando, y, para ser honesta, no podría haber imaginado una forma de represalia más placentera. Era libre por primera vez en mi vida, y fue suficiente. Gracias por ver y quedarte hasta el final. Si te gustaron estas historias, asegúrate de suscribirte y darle a la campanita para que no te pierdas el próximo episodio lleno de drama.
After finding 2 tampons and other clues, I uncovered a disturbing truth behind my husband's secret meetings. Original post. I, 29F, have been with my husband, 30M, for 7 years, married for 4. I've never had reason to suspect he was unfaithful to me or even remotely dissatisfied with our marriage. He likes to joke that we're still living the honeymoon phase nearly 5 years and 2 kids in. I wouldn't have questioned that, or him, were it not for a surprise I found in his car last month. When buckling our daughter into her car seat, I noticed something slotted between the cushions. I pulled it out and saw that it was a tampon. This wouldn't have been so unusual had I not had an IUD that has stopped my period for the past year, and I didn't even recognize the wrapper style. I brought it to my husband's attention, and he didn't seem to understand what it was, let alone why I was holding it, until I told him where I'd found it and why I was almost certain it wasn't mine. He shrugged and said it probably belonged to his coworker, Fiona. It's not uncommon for my husband to carpool to lunch with his coworkers, and we're both fairly close to Fiona and her husband, so I figured it was entirely possible the tampon had slipped out of her purse whenever he had driven with them or offered her a ride. No big deal. I put it out of my mind until we had dinner with Fiona and her husband a couple weeks later. I had sincerely wanted to believe my husband. I just couldn't get over the way it had been tucked in the seat and how my husband had seemed not to have any regard for it whatsoever. Maybe playing dumb. I don't know. I did something that I now feel kind of crazy for doing. I faked an emergency and asked Fiona if she had any tampons while we were out together. She handed me one almost identical to the tampon I'd found in our back seat, and I breathed a sigh of relief. So the tampon there was probably the same tampon here, and in all likelihood, there was an innocent explanation as to why it had been left in the back seat in the first place. I thought I'd seen the last of the out-of-place feminine hygiene products until I found another tampon this morning. This time in my sock drawer. I feel physically ill at the thought of my husband having an affair and even more nauseated at the thought that the woman might have left these tampons out for me to find. If it was my husband's coworker, why would she give herself away by offering me one the other night? In any other situation I would want to talk to my husband about this, but I feel too sick and embarrassed to approach him with what I've found. What should I do? Relevant comments. I've had a period of 30 years and never put a tampon in a sock drawer. Trust your gut and get cameras. Neither have I. I've considered so many explanations for the tampons that wouldn't implicate my husband, but none of them make sense really. I'm terrified to set up a camera if it means confirming what I suspect right now. Has Fiona been over to your house and had time to plant the tampon? She's been to our house many times and vice versa. To my knowledge, she wasn't over any time in the past week, so if she planted that second tampon, she had to have found a window of time when I wasn't home. Anytime she and her husband visit, we all stay downstairs, and you'd have to go really out of your way to make it to our bedroom, that is around our dogs, over the safety gate, past the other bedrooms. Not saying it's impossible, but definitely tricky to do on a quick bathroom break, I would guess. How old are your kids? Could they have found a tampon and put it in a random place? 2 and almost 4. Both have a mischievous streak, so I didn't want to rule out the possibility of one of them moving stuff around, but I can't imagine how they'd get their hands on one, possibly 2 random tampons that I never bought. Update post. Contemplating every possible source of 2 tampons has been my personal hell for the past few weeks, but I wanted to share an update. Shortly after posting here, I told my sister what happened. The tampon in the back seat and the sock drawer, my husband's cluelessness, the tampon from Fiona, and all the things I suspected but didn't want to believe. We compared tampons, save for the back seat one I had already discarded. And they were a match, just in different absorbences. I hadn't left either in a place where my husband or daughters would have found them and moved them around. My daughters didn't know what they were or where they had come from. My sister was convinced it was Fiona, either fucking my husband, fucking with me, or both. Direct confrontation of either party still seemed like a bad idea, so she suggested inviting Fiona and her husband over for our Labor Day barbecue. Unfortunately, they already had plans. My sister and I agreed that it was too soon for cameras without any other evidence, so it was just a waiting game from there. Watching my husband for any changed behavior, there was none. Our house for any misplaced foreign items, there were none. And even the girls for any new friends they might have met. My sister's husband was adamant on this last point, and partly why he was inclined to believe that the tampons were harmless. If anything had been happening in or around our home, he said, it would be nearly impossible to keep it from me and the girls, since my husband was the one taking them to and from daycare and most other activities during the week. I felt a good bit of consolation in that. It wasn't until my younger daughter, 2yo, came down with something last week that I felt any differently. I wanted to be the one home taking care of her, but my husband insisted that I stay at work while he stayed home with her. I was okay with that. My sister and her husband figured it was a good sign that he would take the time off at a moment's notice, and at that point, we were all already beginning to put the tampon fiasco behind us. By the 3rd or 4th day, I was just happy to see a near-healthy child and a husband who was helping see her through it. Toward the end of that week though, I came home to something strange. The toddler that I'd left that morning in an old PJ set was now dressed in a onesie I'd never seen before, with a tiny clip in her hair. I can't say I have the sharpest memory, but I have a pretty good sense of what my kids wear on a day-to-day basis, and particularly what kinds of clothes they wear. I'd sworn off the full-length sleep suits with snaps across the front long before we'd ever had our second. The long snaps are just a pain in the ass and a no-go for efficient diaper changes, IMO. It's just not something I would dress her in, and my husband knows as much. He doesn't plan for, or buy the girls' clothes, and he certainly doesn't accessorize them, so I was bewildered. And kind of floored at the thought of someone around our sick child without my knowledge. I didn't think twice, and I went straight to my husband to ask if anyone had been over to see him or the girls. He seemed confused, like before, and asked me why I would think that. It had just been him and the kids all day. I asked him again, if someone had so much as stopped by to say hello, and he denied it. He told me to calm down. I might have lashed out and come forward with the accusations right then and there, but our older daughter was in the room, and she sensed something was up. In a calmer voice, I asked him a third time if anyone had been around our children, and my husband swore that the girls hadn't been around anyone but him. He also denied buying new clothes or doing anyone's hair. With our daughter in the room and my emotions all over the place, I decided to leave it. I couldn't make sense of it then, and it hardly seems clearer now, after I've driven myself half crazy with explanations that aren't adding up. Relevant comments. To answer a couple questions. My 2yo can only string together a couple words at a time, and when I ask her about her time with daddy or her clothes bow, she answers based on the cues I give her, for example, who gave you that pretty bow? And she repeats pretty bow back to me, or mama daddy, over and over. My older daughter, almost 4, was at daycare that morning, and she can't recall anything different from that day. Doesn't remember the PJ change or the hair clip, so my guess is she was changed sometime that morning, but I'm not totally sure. I have a 45 minutes commute to work, so stopping by for lunch isn't really feasible. My sister has been kind enough to leave work and drive past a few times here and there, and she hasn't seen anything out of the ordinary. We have a Ring camera at the front door, and I've got the app on my phone with notifs on. Nothing there yet. If anyone has recommendations for more discreet surveillance, I'd be open to it. I'm just the least tech-savvy person and worry another camera will be easy to detect. LOL edit. And yes, we get our carbon monoxide detectors tested regularly. Is it possible one of the hair clips came from daycare? I could see the hair clip being a possibility, but less likely on the onesie. My younger daughter hadn't been to daycare in days, and if either of them had returned with something like that before I would have noticed, especially since it was the kind of onesie I hate with a passion. LOL. People comment that they can't wait to find out the ending to this saga. My money's on the Hollywood horror ending. Hopefully dreamed up the dogs too so I can finally stop picking up their imaginary shits and whatnot. Final update post. After nearly losing my mind over a hair clip and a onesie, I realized I wasn't getting anywhere with the accusations and half-baked guesswork. I'd gotten so absorbed in the paranoia and misery of my situation that I wasn't sleeping, eating or caring for my kids the way I should have been. And I wasn't getting any answers. So I decided to pull the trigger on the hidden cameras and have them shipped to my sister's house, with my BL agreeing to help with the install setup over at mine. Before the cameras were ever delivered though, I got my long-awaited confirmation last week. A Ring notification had alerted me to motion at the front door while I was at work. Half expecting to see a delivery person, pet or lawn care salesman for the 15th time, you can imagine my surprise when I saw a clip of a young woman leading my daughter into the house hand in hand, with my husband and other daughter close behind them. The girls were supposed to be in daycare and my husband was at work. The woman, as far as I knew, was living 2 states away with a court order keeping her there. I immediately called my husband to ask him what the fuck this woman was doing in our house. He didn't answer, so I texted it to him. Even in his stupidity, he probably realized he had messed up by going through the front door, knew I had gotten the Ring notification, and wanted to delay the inevitable. By the 5th or 6th subsequent call though, he did pick up. The woman on the camera was my husband's sister. As I would come to find out later, she was the likely source of both tampons, the onesie, and the bow. She is also a registered sex offender and a recovering addict, who spent the better part of her adolescence and young adulthood coercing the silence of another one of my husband's family members after she had molested them. I hadn't seen or heard from her in years, and from the way my husband talked about her, I didn't expect I ever would. But here she was, in our house, with our children. Suffice to say I was livid. It wasn't an affair at all and still, somehow infinitely more disgusting knowing who it was and why all of this had been happening. Apparently my Sil, fresh off another stint in rehab, had wanted to reconnect and make amends with people she'd hurt, and my husband was high on that list. My husband didn't want me to know or, worse, try to keep her family, our children, away from her, so they'd been meeting in secret, often at our house when I was at work. They would enter through the garage, in my husband's car, so the Ring camera at the front door wouldn't tip me off. She spent the night on a weekend I had been on a business trip and slept in our bed. She babysat our girls on a night my husband told me he had dropped them off at his parents'. She bought the girls clothes and dressed my youngest in the onesie and bow that my husband had promised in his life I had dressed her in myself. My husband swore this was all in my head. The tampons, the onesie, the bow, and all the rest. He was perfectly content to watch me agonize for weeks over a woman he insisted didn't exist. shrugging off each progressively more unsettling discovery like it was news to him and telling me I was being irrational. He insinuated that I was experiencing postpartum depression, 2 years after I'd given birth. 4 years later, I told him that one of my biggest fears for motherhood was to suffer from PPD like my mother had with me, to not be fully present for our babies and be left with a world of guilt and regret as they grew older. He told me I wasn't sleeping enough, that I missed the girls too much, that I needed to take a step back and reevaluate the state of my mental health. I gave him the benefit of the doubt because he was my husband, and because no other version of events made sense. Now, after a month of this mindfuck, I have nothing to show for my trust but this pathetic situation. And a lot of anger.
Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.